Okay, so my last video cut off right in the middle of this, so I'll just kind of start this bit again for you. So we have the fruit of the poisonous tree doctrine and derivative evidence. Okay, so with fruit of the poisonous tree, basically it says that illegally obtained evidence is fruit of the poisonous tree and therefore inadmissible in court. Now, if I obtain further evidence from the illegally obtained evidence, then any of that additional evidence obtained from the initial piece of evidence that was illegally obtained is also illegally obtained and is all excluded. Okay, so let's say for some reason um, there's a murder at a house, somebody got shot and all of this, and we go in and we do our thing and we don't get a search warrant, and so now we have obviously, I mean, let's say the victim was still breathing and alive when we got there, but they died later, so they died at the hospital, so we have the body. Okay. um, and um, the coroner provides us the slug later on from the body during the autopsy. Okay. But for whatever reason, we don't obtain a search warrant for the house, and we find the gun, we find the shell casing, we find the blood spatter, and all of this stuff. Okay, so the the gun is inadmissible under fruit of the poisonous tree. The blood spatter, the shell casing, all of that stuff, everything seized out of that house because no warrant was obtained is illegally seized and therefore inadmissible in court. Now, to explain derivative evidence, this is where it gets interesting. So we have the slug, we have the shell casing, okay? But we go into the lab and we do our ballistic testing and we to check penetration and whatnot, and we do a rifling match to check the slug and all of that. All of that evidence obtained, the ballistic reports, the rifling matches, all of that stuff is also inadmissible in court because that evidence came from the use of the gun, which was illegally obtained. And so, since the gun was illegally obtained, any further evidence obtained as a result of the illegally obtained gun is now no longer admissible. So we can still use the slug, we can still use the dead body, but the gun and the shell casing and the blood spatter and all that and anything else related to that is out. Okay, so we have several case laws here. You need to look these up and become familiar with them. Read the syllabus of the court and read the ruling. Okay, I mentioned that on the first day of this class. And I highly suggest that anytime you see a case law, whenever you're reading your book, you see it in my notes, you see it on my slides. If you see a case law, go find the case law through like Find Law or LexisNexis or something. Find that case, look it up, read the syllabus of the court, and read the ruling. That way you are familiar with the synopsis details of the case and what the court had to say about it. Okay, so here we have several exceptions to the fruit of the poisonous tree doctrine. And of course, you can see that the independent source basically says that if I obtain the information from an independent source, then I can use that evidence in court. Okay, so taking our instance with the murder investigation, I can't use the gun obtained. But now that I know which kind of gun it was and what kind of shell casing it was, I can go get a different gun and a different shell casing of that exact same type and conduct ballistic testing with that and then use that in court and not be fruit of the poisonous tree because it's obtained from an independent source that was not illegally obtained. Okay. Then we also have attenuation, which basically says that the evidence obtained is so far removed that basically it doesn't matter. So yeah, that one's kind of fun. Very rarely does it pop up, but it's there. So then we come to inevitable discovery. And this basically says that if evidence was illegally obtained, it can be admitted to court if, under the circumstances of its discovery, it would have been discovered eventually. Okay. And the best example I have for you here is the Christian burial speech. Okay. Um, so I highly suggest that you look that up. I believe the Christian burial speech comes from that Murray versus United States listed here on the screen. But look up Christian burial speech as it pertains to inevitable discovery. Read the story. It's really awesome. You should read it. And then we have the good faith exception. This is the one that most often occurs. Okay, so this one here would be, say I go and get a search warrant and I articulate the facts in the warrant and I go get the warrant and the magistrate signs the warrant. And so we go out, we execute the warrant, collect a whole buttload of evidence. And then later it's determined through the course of our investigation, maybe even from the evidence we seized on the search warrant, that the facts we used to obtain the search warrant no longer exist. That would technically invalidate the warrant, but since we were acting in good faith on the warrant being valid and the information used to obtain it being valid, then even though that evidence is technically illegally seized, it's still admissible under the good faith doctrine of fruit of the poisonous tree. So it's a mess. Okay, so the last couple things here is that you have to have standing, which is the ability to raise the legal claim. So you have to have standing to establish a criminal charge. You have to have standing to assert an exclusionary rule claim. Okay, so basically, the evidence that you're trying to exclude has to apply to you, and then there must be an injury that occurs. So there's got to be a foul somewhere along the lines because of this illegally obtained evidence. So if you don't have standing and you don't have an injury occur, then you cannot exert an exclusionary rule claim. Okay. So with that, that should get us through the end of chapter 3, or sorry, the end of chapter 2. Obviously, I'm burning through this, but if you have questions, please get a hold of me. You know my email, josiah.smitty@secc.edu, or my phone number, 620-805-1217. And again, if you need me, get a hold of me. If you have questions, get a hold of me. All right. Have fun.